Hi friends, so if you've made it down to here, that means that you have listened to our new spelling words. You have done the spelling worksheet that is not on here apparently yet. You have listened to the James video. You have gone ahead and answered the questions about it, and you watched the academic vocab video. On here, you have two videos actually. This one down here talks to you about text features, and that's what I'm going to be showing you and working through with you today. This Brain Pop Junior video is really important. I'm really bummed that I'm missing text features with you guys because this is one of my favorite things to teach, and vocabulary has a very fun text features video. I'll see if I can find a way to put it on where you can hear the sound too. Okay, it's all about sloths. But in this case, you're going to listen to this Brain Pop video by yourself, okay? And then you will be working along with me. So, as you heard in the Brain Pop video, text features are lots of different things that help us understand a text better, right? They're awesome. They're great little tools. So some nonfiction text features are things like a title, and the title tells you what the text is about. The title page gives you more information such as the author, the illustrator, and where the book was written maybe. The table of contents, okay, just like at the beginning of James and the Giant Peach, if you think back to when we looked at that and the table of contents, that's where it broke down each chapter. Now, in the case of James, each chapter doesn't have a name, but usually the chapters are named and then they have the page number. So if we said, okay, we are on chapter 38, you could look at the table of contents and it would say chapter 38 starts on page 120. And you could just flip to page 120 to make your life easier. There's something called an index. An index is something that tells you what pages you can find certain topics. For example, if I was reading a book about sloths, and I wanted to know what sloths eat, what their diet is, at the very back of the book in the index, I could look up the word diet, and it would tell me page 5. And on page 5, I would read about what sloths like to eat. Okay, same thing if I wanted to know where they live. I could look up habitat. Okay, so the habitat of a sloth. In the index, if I find the word habitat, I would look for the page number next to it, and maybe it says page 10. I would flip to page 10, and on page 10, I would read about the habitat of sloths. There's also something called a glossary. A glossary tells us the definitions of words that are in the text. So if that same book about sloths talked about habitats and you don't know what habitat means, you might be able to look in the glossary of that book. And back there it would say the habitat is where an animal lives. A heading, we've talked about these a lot. They break up big chunks of text and they give you a heads up about what each section is going to be about. A photograph, is something that we take with a camera. Okay, this is not a drawing, that's something different. So a photograph is something done with a camera so that you can visualize it. Illustrations are the ones that are done with a drawing. That's where an illustrator actually draws it. A caption, we're familiar with these as well. Captions tell you what's going on in a photograph or illustration. Labels are new. Here they have, and I know it's blurry, I apologize, but here they have an image, an illustration of lungs. And they've labeled each different part of the lungs, okay? So they're telling you the names of these different pieces. A graph, and actually label is one of our academic vocab words, so you should be familiar at least a tiny bit with that word. A graph is something that helps you organize information in a visual way, okay? So here they have a pie graph. So you can see there's a lot more red than blue. So if this was votes for vanilla ice cream versus chocolate, and vanilla was the red part, it looks like a lot more people like chocolate ice cream. Okay, we've talked about graphs also as an academic vocab word. And then the last one is a table, and a table is a way to organize facts and numbers so that it's easier to read as well. So I've gone over very quickly a lot of these. A lot of these you're very familiar with. But now I'm going to go and use them in a text and see how they help me understand the text better. So in this case, I'm looking at a story called Life in the Trash. The title here, Life in the Trash, tells me what this is going to be about, what this text will be about. It's about living in trash, which doesn't sound great already. Then I have a photograph here. This photograph lets me see that it's not people living in trash. What am I reading about living in trash? Sea turtles, absolutely. Okay, so these sea turtles, I can already tell just from this front cover, from my title and my photograph, that this story is going to be about sea turtles living in trash. Up next, I have a heading here. The heading are those blue words right there. It says, the Pacific Garbage Patch. That means everything down here that I read about should be about the Pacific Garbage Patch. The illustration here is telling us, or is helping us imagine all of this trash. Now you will notice, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but you will notice a red word here. That word is red because they didn't make it bold, and bold is where you make the words kind of fat and dark. So instead they made it red. In this case, instead of putting a glossary at the end, they're giving you the definitions of the bold words. When authors make a word bold, it's because it's an important word to know. So they said plastic bottles bob in the water. And then by clicking on the word, or I could have gone to the glossary, it's telling me that bob means to keep water or to keep moving up and down. When something floats in moving water, it bobs up and down. Okay? And then we can decide which of these objects is bobbing in the water. Is this buoy bobbing up and down in the water? Or is the sunken ship bobbing up and down in the water? The buoy is. Okay? When we go to the next page, we have another heading. Where does the trash come from? That means down in this section, I'll read about where the trash comes from. It looks like to me it's saying that waves can pull trash to the ocean, rain can flush street trash down to the storm drains. Okay, so this heading gave me a heads up about what's in the text. Up next here, I have a new kind of text feature. This is called a map. You guys are familiar with these. We see these a lot. So maps also help us understand where things are happening in the world. So that's why they drew this map. They wanted us to know where the Pacific Ocean was and where this Pacific trash pile is. I do see another bold word. Which word is bold in this text? Swirl. Swirl means it moves in circles. Which of these images is showing something swirling around? Yeah, the water going down the drain. When water goes down the drain, it swirls. That's how a glossary can help you understand bold words better. Oh, here's a new heading, plastic soup. That means that down below I should read about plastic soup. But what's interesting is over on this photograph, I now have a caption. They wrote the caption inside the photograph this time. Usually we see them below, but this time it's inside. It says, water from the Pacific garbage patch is full of tiny pieces of plastic. So now I know that in that picture, it's showing me water from the Pacific garbage patch and that all of those floating colors are pieces of plastic. Okay, this next page has some text features again. What's a text feature that you see? You might have seen the heading up at the top. The heading says plastic problems. So this text should be about the problems with plastic. You might have also seen a bold word. That's a pretty big, important word. Biodegrade. Let's see what it means. When something biodegrades, it breaks down completely over time. Now, if I didn't have the option of clicking to see what the word means, where would I look to know what an unknown word means? If you were thinking of the glossary, you would be correct. The glossary can tell us what the words mean. Over here, though, on the right-hand side, we have a perfect example of a table. Okay, this table is called trash breakdown, and it's telling us how long different kinds of trash takes to break down. So I see kind of trash, plastic bag, and then I can go over to the right and it says It takes 1 to 20 years to biodegrade. Aluminum can, 200 years to biodegrade or break down. Cardboard box, 2 months. Newspaper, 6 weeks. Apple core, 2 months to break down. Wool sock, 1 to 5 years to break down. And a plastic bottle, 450 years to break down. As we're coming to the end here, again, you see a heading, who was harmed. It's going to tell us about who gets hurt. We have 2 photographs and again, another caption. Some animals think trash is a jellyfish and eat it. Oh no. In that photograph, they're showing you how the jellyfish looks a lot like the trash. And then again, we're at the end here, and we have a bold word and a heading. The bold word is prevent, okay? And then, there we go. Prevent means something. To prevent something is to stop it from happening, okay? So we could have looked that up in the glossary. And then that's the end of the story. So that was an example of some text features in a real life situation, a real story. Now I'd like to go through, oops, wrong one, sorry. I'd like to go through and show you what your assignment is going to be today in class for some text features. Okay, down here we're reading about the Arctic fox. I'm asking you to label the different text features, okay? So up here at the top, we have something that's telling us what the whole thing is about. Not just part of it, what the entire text is about. What do you think that's called? If you said the title, you are correct. If your writing goes outside of the box, that's okay. Mine does too. That is a title. Over here, I see that this box down here is pointing to a bowl. Ooh, I shouldn't have told you what it was. It's pointing to a word that looks different. If you know what kind of word that is, then the author made it look different, and it's because it's important. But what do we call those words? If you said a bold word, you are correct. Okay? A bold word. Now, bold words are bold because that means that they're a word the author thinks that you really should know. Over here, we have the smaller title called hunting. I think it's trying to give me a heads up about something. What do you think? What kind of text feature is hunting right there? If you think that one is a heading, you are correct. All right, a little bit trickier down here. We have something that's showing us some information. It's showing us numbers and information. It's letting me know how much sea ice is left, and it looks like it's less and less as the years go on. What kind of text feature is this called? Let's see. Is that a title? No. A table of contents? No, that tells me what chapters and what pages they start on. An illustration? Well, something's drawn, but I don't think that's an illustration. Oh, if you're thinking a graph, touch your nose. Yeah, graphs show us information or numbers, okay? So this is showing us information, showing me how much sea ice is left. So this is a graph. Now, this little last part down here, we're not going to worry about him, okay? All right, there are 2 questions down here that say, why was the Arctic fox overhunted? If you can find why they were overhunted, write it down. And the other one says, how is climate change affecting the Arctic? You do not have to answer that one. You only need to try your best to answer, why was the Arctic fox overhunted? So I gave you the answers. If you've watched this video, this will be a really easy activity. After that, you've got a text feature game to play. an IXL over text features. W1, please screenshot and submit to me. And your homework tonight is actually asking you to write in what the text features are that are labeled. Now, you do have a word bank down here at the bottom, okay? So don't forget to use that word bank. That will help you a ton. Down here, they say subheading. We just call it a heading, okay? So don't worry about that. And same with bold print. We call that bold words. So don't panic over those little things, all right? Same thing, just a slightly different name. So that will be your homework tonight, okay? All right, boys and girls, I know this was a longer video, but I helped you out a ton with the assignment. Go ahead and get your things done for the day, please.